I started getting involved in martial arts and Jiu Jitsu. Let me see what year it was. 96. About 1996, a sophomore. And at the time, I was had a girlfriend, and she was training judo. So this was like early UFCs. You know, they still had all weight classes, all skill levels, and you fight the sumo guy, and it was all about that. And it was still style versus style. So it was like a long distance relationship, and she did judo back then, and where I was living in my area, didn't have any judo. She originally wanted jiu-jitsu because her dad was watching. He was a fan. He said, "Oh, she was a small girl, so she needed to do that and train that." And they found judo, and that's the closest thing, so they got started. And she was having a lot of fun training and competing, and she would throw me and trip me and get my butt kicked, and I thought, okay, I gotta learn something. I gotta go figure something out. So I remember my family and I moved to the high desert for about a year. It was in Victorville, California, on the way to Vegas, because everybody passes by from SoCal. And there was a group there that when I went to school there, that they were at a fitness gym, and this guy that was a ex-wrestler, and he was into wrestling, and he also had a judo background. So I was like, oh wow, this guy does judo. Okay, cool. So I remember judo. So I started with him. I started, getting going, and we got involved in a program that he called it combat grappling. I remember combat grappling, and that was with Ted Williams, a big guy. He's a black belt in judo under John Ogden, a national wrestler. He was a pretty good high-level wrestler. Big guy, looks like a bear. Ted Williams, big guy, about 240, 250, something like that. This is a big, massive person. And he is actually involved now with Gladiator Challenge. I'm not sure if they're still running that, but he was the main guy that was running that. And he was training us, and we would meet up at one of the racquetball rooms, and he had mats, and we would train, and we were combat grappling. So he would teach us some wrestling, some basic submissions, because the judo has the submission work. And other times we put on boxing gloves, get two guys in gis, tie a belt from the front of your knot against the front of their knot, like a big umbilical cord, and you box for 2-3 minutes and see who can stay standing. And that was our combat grappling. And then from there, he would try to get us to cross train, because you couldn't really fight. There wasn't too many tournaments. There wasn't much going on. So he would get us to cross train. And I remember there was this, he said, hey, we're gonna go on a field trip. And we went to go visit a Kempo karate school. And it was the weirdest place. Over there's a bunch of weird places. And over there at the Kempo karate school, next door to was a bar. So you would do Kempo, I would assume, you would do Kempo karate, fight each other, and then go get drunk right after. I think that's what their thing was. So they had like a bunch of biker looking guys. They were students. And we went over there, and we were supposed to cross train. So we would learn some stand up from the Kempo guys, and we would show some grappling from our end. And we only did that one time. It was not a good idea. It ended up was called currently like dojo storming. Well, I guess we were dojo storming. I didn't even know it. And I remember when we were doing that, we went over there, and he had us, and he wanted to show at the same time that our group was good, and we had a lot to offer. So a couple of our guys got put up against a couple of their guys during like sparring session. And they start everything. You could kick a punch, and we're gonna grapple, and we'll kick a punch too. And in gis, it was weird. And I remember after a while, the head instructor got upset. Right? I don't know what degree he was, some big degree black belt guy. And tattoos everywhere. I remember that. I remember one of the biker guys. And biker guys doing Kempo. And then he got really upset, and I remember Ted, okay, well, no, come down. This is exercise. I'll tell you what. You go with one of our students, and he put me up to go with him. I don't know why, because he was bigger than me. But maybe it was so that he can beat up on somebody and feel okay. Maybe he knew that I would be able to, not get hurt. And I didn't know that this was the plan. But I was like, oh, hey, this guy's bigger than me, and he's gonna well at me, because he was upset because these guys were getting the butt kicked. And I remember he threw a roundhouse kick, and I hit my rib. And I remember grabbing his leg and knocking him down and submitting him like 3 times. And then this happened in 2-3 minutes. And sure enough, it got pretty heated, and it was a big mess. And that was the end. That was the last time that we cross-trained with another school and stopped our, what we nowadays we call dojo storming. We never did that again. All this happened in 4 or 5 months of training. We didn't get to train that long, but it was pretty effective. What we did learn was basic and simple, but it obviously got the job done. It built my confidence up, that's for sure, because this guy's been training Kempo Karate for 10, 15 years. I've been training 4 months. And I guess on paper, took out the instructor. It's kind of weird. So then we ended up networking locally, and we came across a Brazilian guy, a Brazilian practitioner. He did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and he was Pedro Carvalho, one of the original guys out here, and he was from Rancho Cucamonga, and he used to drive up to where we were at for that rest of that year, and he brought his brother, Rodrigo Teixeira. A lot of people know him now because he's local and has a school, good students. And that's who I started formally, initially training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under, was them. Then I finished off pretty much the end of the school year, in like 1 month of the summer. So about another 4 or 5 months. So I had, my first year was combat grappling and about 4 or 5 months of Jiu-Jitsu, something like that. Then I moved back to LA, and at that point, I thought that was just something that people did in the desert. And then I didn't think you could find that anywhere else. So we let it go, and I missed it. I remember missing it, so I started looking in a phone book, and I somehow I found a place that said they did Jiu-Jitsu. So junior year, we started driving. I would drive down to Redondo Beach, and Higan Machado was there, RCJ Jiu-Jitsu, and I got to train a little bit with Higan and a few of the other Machado brothers for a little bit. That was pretty cool. It was interesting. It was different. It was 100% Brazilian, but it was very heavy Brazilian experience, and that was cool. It got me into it, and I really got into competing in tournaments back then when we started with Higan, and we would go to the U.S. Open and had success there. Eddie Bravo was a teammate of mine for a little while. I remember he was blue belt. I think I was already blue belt too. So we would compete in the same tournaments, stuff like that. It's kind of neat to see the generation, because now he's doing other stuff with business and UFC and school and his products, which is cool. And that was fun. And then I remember the drive was kind of tough for me, because it would take me like an hour to get down there after school and trying to get out there and come back, and it was expensive too for me at the time, because I didn't work. I was busy going to school. And a friend of mine, that I think I finished the winter of the year over there, so we got about 1.5 years into it now. And a friend of my father's, actually, Carlos Cuevas, he knew a Brazilian guy that was local, so I wouldn't have to drive down there, and he was a really good guy, and they came from a great camp, and they're Valetudo fighters and all this crazy stuff, and they asked you to check it out. So I said, okay, well, it's close by, I'll go check it out. And that's where I met my master, and I met Rodrigo Medeiros, and that was like a unique relationship, and I've been training with him ever since. It's been since the end of '96, pretty much. That's when I met him, and we started training, and it was the perfect fit for me. That's something that's important for people to find, is you got to find a school that kind of has a good formula and a good fit that you feel comfortable and they're doing something good where you clearly can tell that they're there for your interests and they're gonna help you develop as a student. They care about you, and Rodrigo showed that from the very beginning. Sometimes at other places when we would travel, we would notice, if at least back then, now it's a little different because more people are training, but back then, if you were from Brazil, you would get special training. You would get like extra, like the after class moves, and you wouldn't get that. And you as the American, you would get to be the guy that they practice those moves on, right? And then the coaches will be, coaching the Brazilian guys in Portuguese, and you don't know what the heck they're doing, but you could tell that they're trying to do something on you, and it's like 2-on-1 kind of thing, and you're trying to enter a fight, represent, and do what you can. But Rodrigo wasn't like that. He treated everybody the same, and I think that's what made a difference for me. And when I made the switch over, it's been great. Everybody who knows him loves the guy. He's just a really good guy. And our lineage is under Carlson Gracie. Great camp for regards to Jiu Jitsu and MMA and Valetudo and self-defense and everything. They were a powerhouse back in that day. So that's what we were under. I got my black belt under, actually, I have the story behind that. I got 2 black belts. I got my black belt under Carlson and his son. They were in town, Carlson Gracie Jr. And I remember, this is unique because not too many people. It takes forever to get your black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. It takes a long time, and somehow I found a way to get 2. It's a unique story. So check it out. Okay, so Rodrigo was in Brazil because Brazilians every December. That's when they go. They go and visit family. When it's cold here, they go over there. And Carlson Sr. and his son, Carlson Gracie Jr., they were in town because he has a daughter that used to live in LA. I think his name was Karen. And every time they were in town, when they could, they would always stop by the school here in Newbury, and they would visit the school, and because everybody used to train together, and we were all under the same team, and Rodrigo was our teacher, and John Awano was also a teacher here at the school, so everybody's connected. So I remember one time as a brown belt, late brown belt, they came by and they were doing one of the visits, and then being asked, "Hey Johnny, why are you still brown belt?" And I remember asking them, "Man, I don't know. I just train, and when Rodrigo feels it's time, it's time. I just love training. I do everything in my gi." So we didn't think much of it, and then they went to the back room and hanging out, and then catching up because they were visiting, socializing. I was just on the mat training. And then later on that day, they come up on the mat. It's a Saturday, and I remember I get promoted. I get the black belt, and it was like, wow, it was a big deal. It was a big honor to achieve the black belt, and to have Carlson there in the room, being the group, him and his son, and I wanted to be the one presenting it to me. It was a big deal because that's what gave my teacher his black belt. So it was a great honor. It was a fantastic day. But Rodrigo was in Brazil, and that became a problem because that morning he knew within like 2-3 hours that it happened, because we got an email of all this crazy stuff of what the heck, how can this happen, this is the last belt. And I kind of felt the same because I trained under all the years under Rodrigo, and our lineage is under Carlson, but I didn't spend too much time directly with Carlson, so it was an honor, but I wanted to get it from my teacher too. That was the last belt, because the next minute, black and red belt, I don't know, I won't be throwing people at that age, it'd be old. So anyway, to keep it short, I got the belt on Saturday, wore it all day Sunday, and then I gave it back on Monday because I had to. It was a big, I couldn't do it, and it was a fuss between Rodrigo and Carlson. So that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, was that, because I worked so many years and competed and trained so hard to achieve and finally get there, and have to somehow saving face and not be disrespectful, show honor, and honor my teacher. So I had to give the black belt back to one of the grandmasters, which was crossing guards, and it was tough. And they had their squabble, you know, how can you give the belt? How come you didn't even call me? You know, this is the last belt, he's my student. And I think, I can't speak for him, but I think Carlson thought, I gave you your belt. I don't need your permission for anything. I really think, you know, it makes sense to me. But anyway, that's what happened. So I got the belt, wore it for a day, the next day, give it back on Monday. Then a year and a half later, I get my belt from Rodrigo Medeiros. I don't know why. Rodrigo, if you see this, I don't know why a year and a half later. I'm not sure. You have your reasons. It's always been good. So someday you'll tell me. So yeah, that was how I got my 2 belts. Yeah. I don't know too many people that have done that. Not yet. I haven't met anybody yet. Yeah.
All right. Just one last question. What's your whole philosophy behind New Breed Academy, and how did the whole idea come about?
New Breed Academy, it started from my experiences through Jiu Jitsu and being able to meet different people and network. When I first started teaching, I started teaching it was by accident. I remember I was training with Rodrigo Medeiros, and he had one of the brown belts from Brazil at their school in Brazil. It's called the Nova Geração, which is like new generation. I think that's what this translates for. And he had somebody here, so he had help, and an opportunity came up to go open up a second, like, small satellite group of classes. And we went over there to go do these classes, and he asked me if I would go help out. I said, sure, I'm still going to train with my teacher, no problem, I'll go anywhere, sure, let's do it. So he started to teach in Pasadena behind like a supplement store, supply store, and we were teaching out of there for a couple months, and then something happened with the student that came from Brazil, an emergency, and he had to go. So then Rodrigo couldn't be at the new place anymore. He had to come back and teach at the main academy. Well, at that time I felt kind of bad. We had some students, and that was my first involvement, like being a part of teaching somebody, helping them. So I felt a little responsible and obligated, and I stayed, and I continued teaching them. So I ended up hanging on to the class. That business eventually closed down. A few months later, they reopened up in LA, in East LA. Right? Makes sense, right? Kind of tough neighborhood back then. So people needed to learn Jiu Jitsu. So we would go there and go train Jiu Jitsu and teach Jiu Jitsu in East LA. Right? And it was the same group, the same owner, and then they did a lot of kickboxing back then. So around this same time, my teacher ended up relocating from the LA area to San Diego, where he's at now. So I did not have training with him regularly. So I met friends at different places, at tournaments and events, and somehow I was able to be able to train with different people, a lot of different people. And most of them were, Brazilian instructors. And I was very happy, fortunate for that, because I didn't have my teacher on a regular basis. So training with all the different networking people, I noticed certain patterns, and I noticed there's certain teaching styles. There's a lot of things that I did like, and other things that like, well, I wonder if there's a way to make it easier, to organize it and just to get the information out there easier. The big thing was the language. There weren't too many people that can teach a technique that were fluent and were good at describing with the language. So that was one of the things I picked up. So the whole idea behind New Breed, when that opened up, it was to be a new way of teaching the art, a new way of teaching Jiu Jitsu, and it started with Jiu Jitsu, but now we do mixed martial arts, we do everything. Jiu Jitsu, an American instructor, not for the sake that not being Brazilian, but in the sense so that people can understand it and really get it because of the vocabulary, the language barrier. I was a very organized person, so I would have lesson plans and curriculums since day one, and I noticed that my students would learn faster because of that. So just a whole new approach of how to learn and how to make Jiu Jitsu as a martial art. And the other thing that was one of the main reasons for me behind, like, I guess, mission statement would be I'm very big into personal development and growing as a person, because I grew a lot throughout my experience, and I am who I am because of my time in martial arts and jiu-jitsu. And I've changed a lot, throughout the years. I've matured, and you do that anyway, but I would know for sure I would be a different person if I wasn't involved in a martial art. It saved me as a person. It gives me balance, physically, mentally, even the spiritual side behind it that you get to experience when you're in those tough moments where you need to get out of stuff. And that was it. I'm big on that. So I wanted to give it the experience of everybody doing jiu-jitsu, because I felt like it was so much about being tough and being able to fight and stuff like that, but you weren't getting the other benefits that you get from martial arts that I clearly saw and I got early on and throughout my whole career so far. So I wanted to really bring that in. So New Breed was the new breed of martial artists versus old, gang busting fighters only kind of group, and where it used to just be like a Shark Tank, and that's what it was for, which was okay back then, but there's so much more to it. Thinking that's it, that it's just the best fighting style, is limiting it. I tell the guys, if all you learn is to kick somebody's butt, you're in here with your eyes closed. You're not paying attention at all, because that's the smallest thing that you're going to get out of your time training in jiu-jitsu. Aside from the experiences, it's a unique thing. It's the only martial art that I know where you get all kinds of different demographics, and it's a certain culture that it brings. Other martial arts don't usually bring this diversity of culture and type of people. It's a very family type of environment. It's very friendly, but at the same time, they're tough guys. It's really cool. So I wanted to systemize that somehow and find a way to get that out to the masses with a new look and a new way, so that people would really enjoy and get a good experience at their school. And remember, I started teaching late blue belt back in 96, 97, 98. There wasn't anybody around. If anybody was teaching, it was a black belt, right? It was a tough time to even consider doing that. I just loved doing it, though. I loved it. And so that's why I went after it. So this was my passion, and I wanted to find a way to make that I can make a living out of that. And that's been my goal ever since, and I've been pursuing it forever. And now we do that, and I've been able to help several other close people learn how to do the same thing. So we have other locations as well, about 5 or 6 locations, and we've gotten all of them to not work their jobs. Some of them had good professions, good careers, getting paid well, but they love training. They got the bug, and now they just run the school, and it's a New Breed Academy, just like the headquarters here.